Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALK.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
From the CNHT studios in Concord, New Hampshire, just a few blocks from the New Hampshire State House, this is
GrokTALK.
Welcome to GrokTALK on Saturday, October 31st. Here are some of the stories we might be following. The Washington Examiner is reporting that the latest batch of Hillary Clinton's private emails include one from August 2011 that shows Clinton made an effort to help evacuate the acting Libyan prime minister from Benghazi amid a crumbling security situation. It was released by the State Department just a week after congressional Republicans grilled Clinton for failing to respond to requests for more security from her own ambassador, who was killed in the 2012 terror attack in Benghazi. The email shows Clinton received a request for supplies to help the acting prime minister leave Benghazi and transition into Tripoli, the nation's capital. Clinton seemingly green-lighted his request and asked her aide, Huma Abedin Wiener, if the U.S. government could ship the requested supplies to a Libyan port. In related Hillary Clinton email news, the New York Times is reporting that the White House will try to block the release of a handful of emails between President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, citing long-standing precedent invoked by presidents of both parties to keep presidential communications confidential, officials said Friday. The State Department discovered the emails between Mr. Obama and Mrs. Clinton as part of its effort to release the former secretary's emails, several thousand more of which were scheduled to be made public on Friday. Mr. Obama's correspondence was forwarded for review to the White House, which has decided against release. After claiming the VA scandal was another vast right-wing conspiracy, Hillary Clinton has taken an about-face. Veterans organizations, veterans and others pushed back hard, and Clinton is now claiming that she is worried about some people trying to use the fact that we need to make major reforms as a justification for dismantling the VA, and thinks her comments were really more directed at that. Ed Morrissey at Hot Air adds, yeah, well, priorities. Let's make sure we're protecting the corrupt bureaucracy before the veterans, right?
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Why are you going to want to listen to GrokTALK? Because when it comes to politics, news, and the culture, we are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservative bloggers, and activists. GrokTALK comes to you live Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you missed us on Saturday, catch us on Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. right here on The Rock, NHCR.com.
GrokTALK.
Politico is reporting that in the middle of the CNBC-hosted GOP debate on Wednesday, RNC chief strategist and spokesman Sean Spicer and chief of staff Katie Walsh approached CNBC officials. According to a source familiar with the encounter, the two had a complaint. Jeb Bush wasn't getting enough questions. The same complaint had come from Bush campaign manager Danny Diaz, though Bush spokesperson Tim Miller said he was not aware of the encounter between the RNC officials and CNBC. The source familiar with the encounter said Spicer and Walsh did not bring up any other candidates. Thanks for hanging in there. You're just 30 seconds away from more news, politics, culture, and the weather without the weather. It's
GrokTALK.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of CNHT, GrokTALK.com, this station, or anyone else for that matter.
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservatives, and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
Welcome to GrokTALk. It's Halloween.
That's liberals screaming to get away from us.
That could be very true. That could be very true. Another week. It is Halloween. It is the end of October. It is the end of Groktober. Welcome to the program. I am here with Mr. Skip Murphy and Mr. Mike Rogers. I didn't switch your names this week. Thank you very much. My name is Steve McDonald. Today on the program, we will have Rich Gerard, who is in an election this coming week for Manchester School Board. And Karen Vaughn, the mother of Navy SEAL Aaron Vaughn, will be on the show. And we are expecting Kimberly Morin in the final segment of the program. So welcome, another day, another week. A lot of things to talk about, as always. We were kind of batting around some things early on about what to talk about as far as the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And I think I mentioned a couple things in the news read. If you heard that part of the program, I think the RNC calling CNBC during the debate to tell them they need to ask Jeb Bush more questions is a really good one.
Yes. Not to say what the truth, which was self-evident by halfway through the debate, which was that the moderators were attacking the candidates, but to say you're not giving our candidate enough exposure.
Correct. And we've also got Obama sending troops to Syria. Well, he's not really sending troops to Syria, but he's sending troops to Syria, and even the Democrats are a little pissed off about that.
Well, I would say this is a point of being exceedingly dangerous and stupid, because he's allowed Putin to walk in there, and now Putin is attacking the people that we set up, because Putin's job is to defend Assad and, by the way, get rid of ISIS, and in between completely crush the other rebels, which are the ones we were supporting stupidly. So now we send our guys in to support our rebels, knowing that Putin is all poised to crush.
And Obama decides to put a stick in the eye of the Chinese premier by sailing a couple of our missile-guided destroyers right past their brand-new artificial reef islands.
Nice island you got there.
Well, we should have been doing that all along from the moment they started construction on the grounds that these are open sea lanes, and just keep it up as if it was the most natural thing in the world, and dare them to attack us. But now
they might.
Well,
and then what's he going to do?
Sink the island.
I don't think so.
He will use it as an opportunity to create a Woodrow Wilson-like war economy, declare martial law, whatever it is he feels like, because he's Obama and he doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, he's already given himself...
He probably wants some kind of conflict. That's probably why he sent troops to Syria. He's only got a year or so left. He's got to get the rest of his agenda done, and the only way he can do it is to create a situation that is dire and will allow him to just make a case for whatever he wants.
The only problem with his pronouncement is that he's sending special forces over to Syria. We've had special forces over in Syria for quite some time. In fact, there was a couple of months ago where special forces that are stationed at the Al-Assad Air Base, where my son served during the Iraq War, they already had to go out and defend the base. So we've had boots on the ground for quite some time. This is just, I guess, the official recognition. And while these guys are superb and can probably outdo, a whole squad or a platoon of regular Army soldiers, sending 50 more special forces there ain't a whole lot of boots on the ground. This is just enough to say, oh, I'm doing something.
It could be he just wants to get rid of those guys, and he's just sending them over there so that the Russians can kill them.
It is pretty much a suicide mission. On the other hand, if you put people in sufficient of a corner, they may just conveniently forget their rules of engagement and remember that they're there to kill people and break things.
Oh, well, they could just as easily go over there, arm and train the rebels, who could then just shoot them. I mean, really. It's sad, but that's very true.
There's no such thing as good rebels in any of those parts of the world. We need to let the tribal boundaries reestablish themselves, because the French, the British, and to some extent the Americans messed the entire region up after World War I, and it's been a disaster ever since.
It pretty much has. Okay, we also have another item from the news read. Clinton emails revealed that in 2011 she was prepared to provide security and assistance to the Libyan Prime Minister in Benghazi to move him to Tripoli because Benghazi in 2011 was deemed too dangerous for the Prime Minister. Not, however, for her own ambassador, who was, of course, executed on September 11th, 2012.
And dragged through the streets ostensibly on the way to a hospital, yes.
Yeah, so more bad news for Hillary. It won't make any difference, I'm sure, to Democrats, because they don't care. They think it's all a vast right-wing conspiracy, like everything else that happens, but it's out there.
Let's pile on. It turns out that while her boy pal Sid Blumenthal had her direct email address, the ambassador didn't. It also turns out that the actor Ben Affleck also had her personal email address, and the ambassador didn't.
And what would the difference be? Well, Sid Blumenthal was providing, shall we say, slanted intelligence out of Libya, which suited his and Hillary's interests, and Ben Affleck was no doubt contributing money to the Clinton Global Graft Initiative.
Correct. Meanwhile, Ambassador Stevens was still being dragged in the streets, waiting for security.
Right, and neither Blumenthal nor what's-his-face were. So we will be talking about perhaps the budget. We can talk about that. Senator Ayotte, of course, embraced the Clean Power Plan. I put up an article on... Watchdog actually sent me a link to the Hill article. And they said, hey, you want to dig into this and write a story? And I'm like, well, yeah, great. So you're going to pay me. I mean, what the heck? I'd love to. So I did that, and then Skip posted something on that, and then it just kind of grew, got a life all its own. I tossed it out into social media a little bit, and wrote another post after that, because naturally, whenever you write anything about a Republican doing things that are so incredibly left wing that it just makes your head explode, they're going to come out and defend her, and they say things like, well, she's going to be with us on more votes than Maggie Hassan. And, of course, my response was, if she's not with us on property rights, rule of law, and individual liberty, who cares what else she's with us on? Because that's what CPP does. It takes all those things away. National tax, national carbon trading scheme, and Facebook is still reverberating. I expect to start getting emails and phone calls pretty soon, because it's really starting to go.
Well, but the thing is, it's completely correct. Look,
it is correct.
In the Senate, something like 35 Republicans voted against the Clean Power Plan. Was it the Clean Power Plan or the budget?
Clean Power Plan.
And 19 voted for it.
Yeah. And you got to say, this is really nothing more than an exercise to enlarge the size, the cost, and intrusiveness of government. This is 180 degrees opposite the Republican principle of limited government, local control.
And I know that because we've already had a cap and trade scheme, and because our electricity rates are in the top 5 for the highest all the time, every year, for as long as I can remember, that Ayotte was probably going, well, if we screw everybody else over, New Hampshire will look better. But in the process of doing that, she has empowered the EPA. She has empowered the executive rulemaking authority. She has empowered, national, federal, central planning overreach. She has and then the cap and trade tax on electricity. It will make everybody else's electricity cost more, and it will enrich a select few people, including the government.
Absolutely. And, once again, we see this pincer movement, because she and Shaheen, gathered up their skirts and said, I like that word, skirts. You too, Jennifer Horn? They said, well, we're going to use the force of government to raise the efficiency of all your appliances. No matter that it's going to cost more, but you'll use less electricity for your more advanced, efficient washers that can't do dishes in under 3 hours.
You
now.
can't afford
And
them, but you can save money if you could.
Yeah, so now we're going to force you to, with the upfront higher cost, and now with her voting for the CPP, it's going to raise the high cost of electricity even more. And guess what's in the middle of those pincers? That would be you and I. And we can thank Kelly Ayotte for this.
We're going to take a break and stay, because that's how we break up the segments. And we're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
For many months, I've been speaking about what I call the Washington cartel. The Washington cartel consists of career politicians in both parties who get in bed with lobbyists and special interests here in Washington and grow and grow and grow government. The Washington cartel is, I believe, the source of the volcanic frustration Americans face across this country. And it is difficult to find a better illustration of the Washington cartel than the charade we are engaged in this evening. This deal that we are here to vote on is both shockingly bad on the merits, and it is also a manifestation of the bipartisan corruption that suffuses Washington, D.C.
Welcome back to GrokTALK.
We can all chair dance with
Yes,
you.
we can.
I thought for a minute the bubbling sound was Washington, D.C. sinking back into its primordial swamp.
Maybe.
But I would be hoping too much.
You would be hoping too much. So, yeah, they passed this budget thing. And I did catch Rush. The only time I ever hear him is if I'm in my car, like at lunch, going to get lunch or going to pick something up at the grocery store, and he was talking about how it's Obama's budget. It gives him everything he wants. He's happy as a clam. They basically gave Obama the budget, and they gave him an extra year worth of budget because basically it's good for 2 years, and it'll be in effect after he's gone.
And only Obama has the keys to the national debt now.
Correct.
He can raise it up as high as he wants. An Alinsky tactic of how do you hamstring a nation? There's Obama, full steam ahead. And our junior senator voted for it. I don't care what our senior senator, the Democrat ambassador from the federal government to New Hampshire did. We know what she was going to do, Jean Shaheen. But the fact that Kelly Ayotte went against the majority of the Republicans in the Senate, just like a minority of the Republicans in the House pulled basically a Jasper-crat move, copied here from New Hampshire, and voted for this pile of stink.
And one wonders, the vote for Paul Ryan, was it mostly Republicans in the end, or was it Democrats and a few Republicans?
No, it was the majority of the Republican Party who did it, and all the the Democrats voted for Nancy.
Yeah,
Pelosi.
Well, fair enough. And the question over Paul Ryan is he in fact going to try and do business a little more cleanly, even if he's still an establishment tool?
Only time is going to tell. The one thing that I'm scared of is that he is definitely an open borders kind of guy.
Yeah.
I am wondering whether he's talking about not bringing up immigration legislation while Obama's in office. If that's a clear indication that if a Republican gets into the presidency the day after, we're going to see open borders type of stuff. Or they won't call it open borders. They'll come up with some fool-for-all title for the legislation. But in effect, that's what they're going to do. They'll grant the amnesty. They'll quintuple the H-1Bs, visas, as we were talking about in the pre-show. And I don't see things getting a heck of a lot better. I would like to see regular order. It's like right now, why bother being in the Congress? It's the head leadership that gets to do all the legislation, and that's about it. The others just kind of just stand around and flap their gums. They do that well.
We could call it tourist transition something.
And we certainly pay them a heck of a lot for just standing around, though. $175,000 a year, approx.
Well, I believe you shouldn't be in Congress unless you can afford to be in Congress. If you can afford to take a break from your job because you've earned enough money, then you can afford to be there. We shouldn't be paying these people. It should be like New Hampshire. We don't pay these people, and they're no more corrupt than the folks in Congress. In fact, I would say they were a lot less corrupt than the folks in Congress. Give them
travel expenses.
Yeah.
Limited travel expenses. And
one round trip a week, max.
No, I'll outdo you both. Telecommute. Put a webcam in front of them.
There you go.
Stay put.
There's still times when you want them to all meet in one place.
Why?
For that little bit of networking, you want them to be able to persuade each other, but you somehow need to get rid of the lobbyists. It's a good question because if it's all telecommuting, it makes it much more expensive for the lobbyists to get around.
That's my main concern. You disperse that power away. They can't hide. You wouldn't have that beltway syndrome going on because, let's face it, folks, we can't get at just our four federal Congress critters here. I mean, they're always down in D.C. If they were here in New Hampshire, you can get here from there in under 3 hours no matter where you're at. And, just like going after my New Hampshire State House representative, all I have to do is get in my car for a short jaunt of about 5 to 10 minutes max, and I can be screaming at their door. And I have done that.
And there are times when it's necessary. And this is why Miss Ayotte needs to get herself to a few town halls here so she can feel the temperature of the voters. She is going to find...
She really just has to go to Facebook at this point.
Yeah, because it's not good.
I did want to give a shout-out to Ken from the Seacoast, and thank you for posting his comment.
That was
because
great.
I took that list, and I put it in as a status update in Facebook and all the places where people were debating, she'll vote more like blah, 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 blah. And, of course, obviously, if you look at that fabulous list that he created, she's not with us on anything, really.
No.
When it really matters.
Not anything important, anyway.
Exactly. She's not representing New Hampshire.
No, I mean, you could look at everything that... I got to stop pulling out the old video from Granite Rock. This is why we cover these types of events. We don't do it like American Bridges, where they're just looking for that one single soundbite. We want everything in toto. But then we can also use it to keep their feet to the fire and say, this is what you said to us, Mr. or Ms. Elected official. We're holding your feet to the fire. We will hold you accountable, not in the gotcha type of journalism.
Another really good point that I think we should visit in print this week is that for the people who continue to insist that Kelly Ayotte is with us on these other things, she's with us on things that TC has no business doing.
You're right.
She shouldn't even have to be with us on those things. They shouldn't even be handled down there.
And the case in point, the zombie of the week, since it's Halloween, would be the Exim Bank. The Exim Bank.
There's another one.
The Exim Bank is corporate welfare.
I have a soundbite from Cruz on this.
The people that really are using the Exim Bank because it's there, it's a candy jar, have stated effectively, Boeing particularly, that if it went away, they can borrow the money just fine on the open markets because they have the credit rating to do so.
And they sold 300 planes without it. So does it show that they really need it?
No, they don't need it. And to the folks that say we're at a competitive disadvantage to all these other nations, and that's why we need it, listen up, you jerks.
He bit his tongue.
If we reduced our corporate taxation, if we changed the scheme of taxation in this country, if we had, for example, the fair tax, we would level the playing field overnight.
Wait a minute. You're suggesting that instead of robbing the money from these people and then letting people in D.C. decide who can have some, that we should let them keep it themselves and invest it in their own businesses?
Heresy!
Oh my God! Wait.
Manufacturing in the United States, such of it as is left thanks to our government, is still the most efficient in the world. If we were able to reduce the costs of our manufacturing by reducing their tax burden, all of those jobs would come back home, just as Trump says they would. And furthermore, we would out-export everybody else in the world.
And we can thank Kelly Ayotte for now making manufacturing much more expensive, especially in the high energy fields like aluminum smelting and raw metals smelting, by raising up the electricity price. Thank you, Kelly!
Indeed. How are you going to produce aluminum if you can't smelt it? And that is the most electricity-intensive business in the world.
Well, you know, if you're really, really clever and you own the smelting business for aluminum, you go out and you buy carbon credits.
Oh, please, do not get me started.
Well, that's what they did in Europe. That's what they do here.
And that's why everything in Europe is migrating from Europe.
I know, it's true, but this is the point. It accumulates...
Don't call them credits.
No, it accumulates money and power with a select few industries and politicians. That's the whole point.
How do you think Al Gore gets to afford his expensive mansion with 20 times the energy usage of the average American? Because he sells carbon credits. And let's not call them credits. Let's call them what they are.
Indulgences.
Precisely. There are two things from ancient Europe which come together to give us the modern anti-energy green power movement. The Spanish Inquisition and church indulgences, because what we are doing in effect is we are grilling industry, especially energy-intensive industry and the coal industry, under a Spanish Inquisition-like regime, and then we are allowing them to purchase indulgences from his papacy, the Al Gore, in order to absolve themselves of the sins and get them out from underneath the Inquisition. We have borrowed some of the most ancient and vile techniques in order to punish our own people and our own industries. And this is how Al Gore makes his money.
And women and children will be hit hardest.
Yes, and minorities.
And minorities. Why do you think so many black youths
and
are
refugees.
out of work?
Yeah.
Well, they'll just up their benefits,
There is now starting to be another pushback. Not only did the Republican candidates during the debate, which we haven't gotten to yet, which was just, I just love that debate on many levels.
We have at least we may have the whole last segment, maybe just half of the last segment.
Okay.
So we'll see.
But it really comes down to those that are the warmists, those who call us denialists or deniist. Okay, I'm having a hard time.
Deniers,
thank you. That's the language of religion, not the language of science. To keep saying that the science is settled, they kind of told Galileo that too.
You can't settle science.
It's not even religious. The most recent application of that term was to Holocaust deniers, people who denied because they are on the side of evil, one of the worst evils perpetrated by man upon man.
You're right. And now let's segue to the Europe invasion, which is...
Yeah, I got about a minute.
Oh, well, we're not going to do that then, are we?
No, because I get a feeling that would take more than the 55 seconds we have left.
I have got a throwaway line. Hope you got a good bang for me on this one. Most of Europe is a gun-free zone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Except for Switzerland. The Austrians are going out and buying shotguns so fast that supplies are running out because they want to defend themselves against home invasions by Muslim immigrants.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah.
It's not a tumor. It's an umma.
It's an umma.
Nicely done.
Nice. It's not a umma. I'll have to do some editing. I bet you I can make that work.
No,
it's not a tumor.
All right, we're out of time. We're gonna We're going to call Rich Gerard. Stay tuned.
Why are you going to want to listen to GrokTALK? Because when it comes to politics, news, and the culture, we are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservative bloggers, and activists. GrokTALK comes to you live Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you missed us on Saturday, catch us on Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. right here on The Rock, NHCR.com.
GrokTALk.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
GrokTALk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservatives, and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALk.
Oh, Rich, we're coming for you.
Are you from the Union?
No, not quite. Not quite, but I am from GraniteGrok.com and GrokTALK here on Saturday morning at our lovely CNHT offices. And we're here for you, and I'm glad that we called you.
Yes, I am too. It's been one of those mornings that come with campaigns, and I knew I walked out of my house for some reason, and you have my undivided and quiet attention.
Oh, good.
Or I should say undivided attention from quiet surroundings.
Yeah, I when I called him up, ladies and gentlemen, I said, "This is Skip." He went, "Yeah."
Well, yeah, I was expecting Steve McDonald to call because he was the one that, so it didn't quite compute. And, anyway, combination of things. Good
Skip's
morning,
my
Ken.
call girl, so you know.
What? I'm being slandered all over the place. But Rich, yeah.
Well, you do have a voice for radio, Skip. I can say that.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to see that you...
Most of us have faces for radio, too.
That is very true.
Glad to have you with us, and we know that you're very busy. You are out campaigning, and you are running for the school board in the city of Manchester for the one of the at-large positions. And how's the campaign trail treating you?
Oh, well, like a well-worn rug.
You mean you're getting beaten? Not in votes, but by the angry opposition.
Well, there certainly is that. And, I got to tell you, it's been a long time since I've hit the campaign trail like this, and the primary difference between then and now is something called social media. And what I find interesting about the whole thing is just the way social media gets used to, in a very vicious way, and in a very personal way, to try to take people down. And it's not something really that you can do battle with and win, because this stuff moves like wildfire through dry brush.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you have to hope that your supporters pick up on it and come to your defense, because there's not enough time in the day for you to be able to do battle with it all. So that's really been the only negative. But when I'm talking to real people, when I'm out on the campaign trail, knocking on doors, doing the stuff that I'm doing, I'm getting a very positive response. So we're focused more on talking to real live human beings face to face than doing the battles on social media, which I think in many ways are tempests in a teapot. As I take a look at some of the stuff that's being said about me on social media, it seems to me, from what I can see from both my own personal profile and the the alternates I'm not supposed to have so I can spy on people, that the tempest has stayed within its teapot, and that's a good thing.
Well, the nice thing about the social media is that everybody can go ahead and comment on whatever the issue is or the person is of the day. The unfortunate part for them is that not all of them can vote for you. And, you know, if 95% of the people who are against you on social media, you know, if they turn around and go, can I vote? Well, you know, as long as their state attorney general is concerned, they might be able to wangle something. But, no, the folks that are in your district who you're knocking on the doors, if you're getting a different reaction from them than what you see in social media, you may be good.
Yes, and the campaign, that's exactly right, Skip, and that's why I say it's really a tempest in the teapot. And we're happy to leave it there. So I've not brought any of it forward on my radio show or otherwise tried to draw attention to it, because that would just be giving it the visibility I think it ultimately is trying to get in legitimate media. So one thing that did happen this past week that was very good for our campaign was we got a very positive endorsement from the union leader.
Nice.
And, excuse me. And I have to hand it to their editorial writers, who I suspect were Grant Bossy, who I had on my radio show Wednesday to discuss what the paper was doing editorially, not just in my race, but citywide. I think they pretty fairly summarized my candidacy, which probably even better than I do when I talk to people. And that is, look, it's about your right to know. It's about partnering with parents. It's about a public process that respects the people who pay the bill. And I think that message is resonating loud and clear, because that is what I'm hearing from people.
Well, I got a question for you. Obviously, when you went into the decision of should I or shouldn't I, you had some preconceived ideas of the issues that you wanted to follow. In setting up your campaign, you may have brought in other issues. Have the people you've been talking to given you other things to think about that you ordinarily would not have thought of?
Not really. And here's why I say that. You know, when I took a look at the variety of issues that I was concerned about, you know, whether it was Common Core or the standardized testing or the Manchester academic standards or any of the things that have been done, you know, Dr. Bob's mass email to the 7 Title I elementary schools in Manchester and how they were going to teach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I boiled it back to the golden thread. And it seems to me that every time someone's come to me and said, well, what about this? No joke, I just got a phone call this morning from someone who said, well, where do you stand on school board members taking health insurance from the city? I said, I'm opposed. She said, you have my vote. and I laughed. And now here's the thing. You take a look at that, primarily for me, the issue is one of disclosure and the fact that I had to fight the school board for the 3rd time in 3 years to release the number through right-to-know requests. In their disclosure, they still didn't disclose everything. You know, rather than telling me that, you know, Dr. John Avard takes a family plan, they said, here are the plans, here are the people who take the plans, here's the aggregate amount of money the district spends on their plans, and here's the aggregate amount of money they spend on their plans. So they wouldn't even come clean with what plan they were taking, even though they knew they had to cough up the information. You see what I'm saying? So,
oh, yeah,
I've certainly heard, as I've gone door to door, you know, from parents who are concerned about how guidance counselors are not preparing their college-ready kids to get to school because they're spending all their time with the juvenile delinquents in class, and things like that. So I've heard a lot of very enlightening information from parents as I've gone door to door. But in terms of the larger themes or ideas of what the district can do, not really.
No, I think you've brought in a very important point, because when I was on the budget committee, I demanded that kind of information. What is the total compensation for each of our employees, broken out by salary, broken out by health care, by dental, by pension, you know, the whole bit, because we're paying the boat. We're paying for the propulsion to keep this thing moving, and it's not your money. When you work for the government, that is part of the privacy you give up. And I'll tell you something. It sounds like you're having the same problem that I did. They don't want to release it.
Yes. And, you know, it's interesting because I just did an interview yesterday on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green, whose show follows mine on 90.7 FM. And she asked me how I was going to deal with all of the information that I now fight to get. How was I going to change and make it so that the school district was going to be more forthcoming? And I said, well, let me put it this way. The information I'll ask for will be as an elected official who has every right to it so he can conduct his duties as the fiduciary he is elected to be. I said, I dare them to withhold the information from me as elected official. I don't think they want to go there.
Well, I was going to ask you, you think they're going to try to Donna Green you?
Do you think they're going to try to what me?
Donna Green you.
They will.
They might. But I'll tell you what. The environment in Manchester is a little different than the environment in the Timberlane Regional School District, where she truly is a lone voice on that school board.
That's true.
You know, in Manchester, I'm not quite the lone voice. There are people, including some members of the board of whom I've periodically been critical.
Oh, and you have a radio show.
Yeah, and I have a radio show. You know, it's funny that you bring that up, because I have had, as the campaign comes to a close, numerous inquiries from people about, okay, what are you going to do with your radio show? Yeah, I have listeners that are worried that it's going to go away. It's not. I have members of the school board who are worried that it's about to become, Godzilla and eat them.
Do it. Do it. I will tell you, I will give you, from the voice of experience, when Doug and I started Granite Grok, we had newspaper columns. We had Granite Grok. We also had Guilford Grok, our local blog site. We had a local radio show. And I have news for you. We use those as the voice of the taxpayer, because we found ourselves always, like you, fighting uphill against the good old boys, the quality of lifers who used government as their own little country club. And we talked about them constantly. We put out all the information constantly. We kept, basically, given that it's Halloween, we kept stirring that cauldron. And I will tell you to do the same thing.
Well, and you will hear me say that I have no plans to back off what I'm doing.
Good.
I will say, however, though, that I do expect that the show will take something of a different tone and different approach, and that will be because I expect that I'm going to have more information to work with than I have now, and I'm hoping that and it might be hoping against hope, but I'm hoping that my efforts to do my job will make my ability to get information not as confrontational or not require so much in confrontation as it has in the past, because, the school district and members of the school board have created a confrontation with me when it comes to getting information by trying to withhold it and then forcing me to go through right-to-know requests, which they then mostly dishonor. So, in as much as I should have more and better information to work with, I should be able to bring more to light about what is happening, good, bad, or ugly, in the Manchester schools, and that should provide my audience with a better understanding of what's happening, and hopefully less adversarial circumstances with the district.
Rich, we're going to
if need be, I'm always there to let people know the way it is.
We're going to take a quick break. Rich, stay on the line. This is Grok Talk. We're talking to Rich Gerard. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
You want to know why the American people are frustrated. You want to know why they're ticked off. You want to know why they cannot understand. It's not that we keep losing elections. That would be frustrating. But you could understand. We got to do a better job. We got to motivate people. We got to convince people. We got to get a message that resonates. We keep winning. And the people we elect don't do what they said they would do.
This is Grok Talk. I am Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, and we have Rich Gerard on the phone. He is running for the school board in Manchester. And Mr. Murphy has a question.
No, actually a comment.
Oh, a comment.
Rich, you think it's going to be easier to get the information from the Manchester School Board? Good luck with that. Unfortunately, what I saw and continue to see is around the state, there seems to be, I'll call it a conspiracy, of keeping that information locked up from not just regular folks like you and I right now, but also as a budget committee member, I was supposed to, by statute, be able to ask for any information I want and get it in any format that I want. Town was always really, really good about doing that. At one point I had to threaten a lawsuit against the financial officer of the school district because he refused to give me the information the way I wanted it. Trust me, this is not going to be easy for you as you transition into, if you win, to be able to get that information. Expect the same headaches.
Well, I hear that loud and clear, and I'm not going to disagree with you. I am going to say, though, that there are a couple things at play. First of all, it's looking to me like there are going to be a number of changes on the Manchester School Board, and more folks sympathetic to my point of view are going to get elected. There are already a body of people on that board who I expect will be reelected who are of that mind. So it's not a situation where there isn't going to be, I'm not going to be one of 15 members, if you know what I mean. So I think the administration is going to have to be mindful of the fact that there will be a significant block of votes that is going to be a problem for it if it doesn't cooperate. Now, that said, I just saw the last Manchester School Board meeting where members of the board were asking, hey, remember that directive we gave you to choose an elementary school to add an additional recess to see how it affected student behavior and test scores? Yeah, how come you didn't come to us with that and came to us with a whole bunch of schools that might be interested in doing the stupid wiggle, wiggle, walk, walk thing for recess in place? So, the administration kind of got a bit of a reminder and a spanking on that. And I expect that to happen. But, Skip, I'm under no illusions. I hear you loud and clear. I'm just hoping that the numbers of us on the board who want to see what we want to see, the way we want to see it, and when we want to see it, are going to be enough that the administration will either comply or quit, and then we can go hire some people who won't be so obsequious.
Okay.
That's the word.
It is. I got a different question on the same kind of vein, though. When you look at the budget, and that's really where my history comes from, the vast majority of the money is going to the adults, not to the children. Although every time that the union says much, it's always for the children. Well, when
it's always for the children, and the children are always better served by them having more pay raises and the students having fewer supplies, yes.
Yeah, and that's the point I was going to bring up because, all those checks that are signed by the school district treasurer are always going to the adults, not for the kids. Right. Most people don't understand how shockingly little out of a multi-million-dollar budget actually goes directly to the kids. And you look at the age of the textbooks, you look at the supplies for the science labs, you look at almost anything that go child direct, and it's an exceedingly small percentage. Most people think, 50, 60, 70%. No, it's 70, 75% to the adults. Do you consider that to be...
In Manchester, I'm told the numbers are currently pushing 90.
Yeah, so how do you change that? Do you see that as a problem? Is that something that you would take on and say, look, guys, it is for the children. Let's actually put our words into dollars.
Well, we have an interesting set of circumstances here in Manchester on that question, in that the Board of School Committee and the Board of Aldermen just ratified a 3-year contract that is going to give teachers, the bulk of the city's teachers, well, let me read it this way. Depending on where they fall on the salary scale, every city teacher in the city of Manchester over the next 3 years will see pay raises of between 7 and 21%.
What? Are you serious?
Now, that pay raise breaks the city's tax cap. We have a cap. Not only it's called a tax cap, but really what it is it's a cap on the amount of revenue that can be generated year to year from the tax base, and it's a cap on spending. Mm-hmm. So it works like this. If you lose $1 million in tuition revenue from a surrounding town, before you can increase your spending, you have to use your tax revenues to offset that $1 million revenue loss.
Correct.
So the cap is a real you-know-what.
And I think it's a good thing.
And I support it. So we're looking at that here in the Queen City. And that contract, by the way, is in court because a number of Manchester citizens said, you know what, 3 aldermen flagrantly violated the charter to vote on that and to override the mayor's veto of that. And so the whole contract could get thrown out. We just don't know. So how you change that, though, Skip, I have to tell you, I'm not sure I know, because those costs are locked in, and the only thing the city can do to try to stay within its budget and stay within the cap is see layoffs of employees, which I don't think is going to do anything to improve the percentage of money going into the classroom versus going into people's pockets, because they're going to eliminate every possible classroom expense to try to keep as many possible teachers on the job.
Yeah. Where's my audio? That's the standard negotiating techniques of unions, whether it be teachers' unions in the United States or the nursing unions in the United Kingdom on the National Health Service, which is if the government puts your budget under stress, the first thing you do is lay off the people that are providing the service to the customers, so the customers will feel the pain and beg to be taxed at a higher rate. And I see the same thing here. You need to force them to lay off the aides, the administrators, the special services people that really don't contribute anything to educating anybody.
Yeah, if there is a silver lining in this, it's that, the City of Manchester schools, I think, average something like 40 retirements a year. And so, when you have to cross your fingers and hope that the worst-case scenario is you can't fill the vacancies created by retirement, you're not in a good place. And I think that's not something that gets changed immediately. I think that's something that gets changed over time. And I think that gets changed by a board that is determined to redirect how things are done. I also think, though, one of the things I did when I had my little sit-down with the union, because they asked, and I talk to anybody who asks me my positions, I say, look, you guys need to look at this a little differently. And I gave them a plan, the outline of a plan, an entirely different way to hire, train, and promote and compensate teachers that Sid Glassner, who does the education segment on my show and hosts his own show on Thursdays from 10 to 11 on 90.7 FM, has spent his lifetime working on. And I think if we can start to look at new paradigms like that and start to make changes, I think over the long run we'll hopefully get to where we need to go. Where we start teaching as a profession and not as a blue-collar punch clock kind of hear the rules on my 15-minute break kind of job.
Right. It is a very much a real phenomenon, what's called the Washington Monument Syndrome that Mike brought up. Let's hit them where it hurts the public the most, and we see that all the time in all levels of government. But if you really want to mess with their heads, ask them the question that I kept asking the school board. What is the ratio of your indirect to direct labor? And
okay.
Explain
me what that means.
Well, basically, I come from a manufacturing background, and there are those people who actually make the product. Though that's your direct labor. Yep. What is your direct labor cost? Then what is your indirect labor? That's everybody else. That's pure overhead. If you're not making the product, you're overhead. And manufacturers watch that ratio like a hawk, because when that ratio gets out of whack, you're spending too much of not doing anything that actually makes the product that goes out the door. I started asking that question to the school board. I asked that question for 3 years, and then all of a sudden, because the enrollments were going down, they had no choice but to start getting rid of positions.
Why do you hate the children, Skip?
Well, they got rid of the overhead, the indirect labor first.
No, but you have to hate the children to get rid of anything, Skip.
You do, Skip.
You know that?
You do. The example...
And you know something? I will say, yes, I hated the excess that wasn't going to the children. That's why when you use that phrasing, what is your indirect to direct, it shows that you're looking out for the resources that actually go to the children. and it's a wonderful thing.
So you got to picture Skip driving a bus full of administrators over the cliff.
With
no,
us.
but we all know that if you want to reduce expenses to reflect your reality, like declining enrollment, that you hate the children.
No.
That's your perfect opportunity to make sure that you have a 5-to-1 student to teacher ratio, and therefore show how much you care and how much you love them, and how you can individualize it by keeping the overhead high, so that they can have a better education.
No, because what you start doing, what I could do, since I knew all of the surrounding towns that were all of our same size, they'd start saying, well, we have the same head count as some of these other places. And that's when you start to get to play, let's do this on a dollar amount, not just the head count, because you're getting paid almost 1.5 to 1 3/4 times more than that other town upriver from us. So they can try to play the games, and you just keep coming down to that ratio. And no matter which way they want to try it, they're stymied. And just try it, Rich.
Oh, I'm going to. I just needed to see how I needed to defend myself against why I hated the children.
Oh, trust me, all you have to do is come and ask. I've been through this all.
Yeah, I mean, the slightly crueler approach to the unions is to say, you can have your wage increase, but the budget cap is still in place, so figure out who you're going to lay off to make sure the others can get paid more.
Well, and that's essentially where we are in Manchester. The question remains whether or not the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will hold fast to that, or whether or not they'll override the cap. The real danger in the city is not just that the teacher's contract alone will break the tax cap next year. So we have 17 other bargaining units that are currently operating under expired contracts and negotiating. And given that they all 3 years ago gave up gave up concessions on their health insurance to keep people on the job or to add to their numbers without a pay raise, one's got to think about their mentality right now. It says teachers get 7.25% in their first year.
Oh, yeah. This all comes down
in exchange for the concessions.
Yeah, this all comes. I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah, we're interviewing him. Shush. Yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
No, I was just saying. I think we're on very bad ground right now.
Oh yeah.
And a lot hinges on the outcome of the election. So if people don't think there isn't a real election fight down here between incumbent Mayor Ted Gatzis and rival Alderman Joyce Craig, they're wrong. And if they have any hope of seeing their tax cap preserved, Mayor Gatzis' election needs to happen.
Yeah.
I on the school board thing, I think I used this example once about the spending. I said, if your school district was a nonprofit and you were donating to the nonprofit and you found out that 70 to 90% of the money that you were giving them was going to overhead and not to the purpose of the nonprofit, you wouldn't donate anymore. And I think that that's a good example of what happens to taxpayers who don't understand what's going on. And they definitely need people like yourself, and you have the advantage of having a media voice to tell them about what's going on. They have an opportunity to hear these things. And so, we're wishing that you do very well. We need you and everybody else on that board to make sure people understand that relationship better.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say I will certainly be a voice that raises that as often as it needs to be raised.
And and if you say if you think the ratio is bad at somewhere like the Clinton Global Graft Initiative, where 90% goes to their personal comfort and travel, don't do this here at home.
So how do people get a hold of Mr. Rich Gerard?
Oh, generally with a rope.
Yeah, yeah. How about a shepherd's crook? Would that work?
that would work too. No, I think probably the best way to get to me is through my website, GerardAtLarge.com. You'll see in the header we have created a page for my School Board at Large campaign. I decided to tie my campaign to the radio show because of all of the things that I've talked about schools and education over the years. So people can get a flavor for that. There's a contact me page there, too. They just send me an email is the best thing to do, probably.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for taking some time to talk to us today.
And for having the courage to run.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I knew I was going to be in for some nasty treatment, and some people haven't let me down, but by and large, the people who watch it from outside, watch it from afar, and are going to be casting the votes it's been very positive, and I'm hopeful for Tuesday.
All right, good luck.
All right, remember to vote, but only if you're going to vote for me.
Okay. All right, we'll see you, Rich.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, Rich Gerard. Election is Tuesday. This is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Mike Rogers and Skip Murphy. We are coming up next with Karen Vaughn, and she'll be on the program for a half hour with us. We're going to talk about the CVA and Hillary Clinton. We'll be back.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
From the CNHT studios in Concord, New Hampshire, just a few blocks from the New Hampshire State House, this is
GrokTALK.
Oh, feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALk.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
from the CNHT studios in Concord, New Hampshire, just a few blocks from the New Hampshire State House. This is
GrokTALK.
Welcome to GrokTALK on Saturday, October 31st. Here are some of the stories we might be following. The Washington Examiner is reporting that the latest batch of Hillary Clinton's private emails include one from August 2011 that shows Clinton made an effort to help evacuate the acting Libyan prime minister from Benghazi amid a crumbling security situation. It was released by the State Department just a week after congressional Republicans grilled Clinton for failing to respond to requests for more security from her own ambassador, who was killed in the 2012 terror attack in Benghazi. The email shows Clinton received a request for supplies to help the acting prime minister leave Benghazi and transition into Tripoli, the nation's capital. Clinton seemingly green-lighted his request and asked her aide, Huma Abedin Wiener, if the U.S. government could ship the requested supplies to a Libyan port. In related Hillary Clinton email news, the New York Times is reporting that the White House will try to block the release of a handful of emails between President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, citing long-standing precedent invoked by presidents of both parties to keep presidential communications confidential, officials said Friday. The State Department discovered the emails between Mr. Obama and Mrs. Clinton as part of its effort to release the former secretary's emails, several thousand more of which were scheduled to be made public on Friday. Mr. Obama's correspondence was forwarded for review to the White House, which has decided against release. After claiming the VA scandal was another vast right-wing conspiracy, Hillary Clinton has taken an about-face. Veterans organizations, veterans and others pushed back hard, and Clinton is now claiming that she is worried about some people trying to use the fact that we need to make major reforms as a justification for dismantling the VA, and thinks her comments were really more directed at protecting the corrupt.
Locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Why are you going to want to listen to GrokTALK? Because when it comes to politics, news, and the culture, we are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservative bloggers, and activists. GrokTALK comes to you live Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you missed us on Saturday, catch us on Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. right here on The Rock, NHCR.com.
GrokTALK.
Politico is reporting that in the middle of the CNBC-hosted GOP debate on Wednesday, RNC chief strategist and spokesman Sean Spicer and chief of staff Katie Walsh approached CNBC officials. According to a source familiar with the encounter, the two had a complaint. Jeb Bush wasn't getting enough questions. The same complaint had come from Bush campaign manager Danny Diaz, though Bush spokesperson Tim Miller said he was not aware of the encounter between the RNC officials and CNBC. The source familiar with the encounter said Spicer and Walsh did not bring up any other candidates. Thanks for hanging in there. You're just 30 seconds away from more news, politics, culture, and the weather without the weather. It's
GrokTALK.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of CNHT, GraniteGrok.com, this station, or anyone else for that matter.
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Welcome to the Halloween edition of GrokTALK, live from Concord, New Hampshire, in the CNHT studios. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy and Mike Rogers. Thanks again to Rich Gerard, who is running for the school board in Manchester, for spending some time with us. For our fans, listeners, and anybody else who's interested, you can listen to this in past programs on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and we are, of course, on YouTube and Ustream and GraniteGrok.com. One more thing, Facebook and Twitter, we are there. You probably are too, so you should just like us or follow us. So, moving forward here with our next guest, I want to welcome to the program somebody who I saw in, I believe it was August, at a CVA event at the Durgan Pulling Arena, where we were 2 weeks ago. First time I'd ever heard her speak, and wow, was I impressed. Welcome to the program, Karen Vaughn. Karen, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thanks for being available for us. I think it's important that we talk about this. I know that Hillary Clinton said some things about the VA, and she's Hillary Clinton, so that's what she does. And then, of course, recently here in New Hampshire on WMUR TV9, she started to back away from those remarks. And I don't know if anybody really knows specifically what she talked about, but why don't you fill our listeners in and then give us your reaction to her words.
Well, I'd love to back up all the way to 2007, the first time she was running in a primary when she said the VA was not worthy of our veterans' sacrifice. And so in 2007, when it's a political campaign time, it's a terrible situation. 8 years later, she declares it to be not that big of a deal, being blown out of proportion by the conservatives. And now, like you said, she recants that. She's outraged again. And I guess, my question is, if she's really outraged again and what she said last week is true, then where has she been for the last 8 years on this issue when she's been, in one of the highest offices in our nation for a good period of that time? And where's she been? I mean, that's the big question here. And it seems to me, and I think it probably does to most listeners and most veterans out there, that this is just another case of wherever the political wind blows, she floats. And if the conservatives are now driving the narrative on the broken VA, then I guess it's not broken anymore, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, we're in a heck of a mess right here with people who will not say what they mean and mean what they say, and I think America's had it with this. And it was funny when I really don't want to be crass or anything, but it was kind of funny when your Halloween spooky music came on, and I realized it was Halloween, and I'm talking about Hillary Clinton. If anybody scares me.
So,
totally scares me.
Oh, she is scary because, I mean, even in her retraction, she said that she worried that some people were trying to use the fact that we need to make major reforms as a justification for dismantling the VA, and thinks her comments were really more directed to that. So Ed Morrissey adds, yeah, well, priorities, let's make sure we're protecting the corrupt bureaucracy before the veterans.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's amazing what comes out of these people's mouths, isn't it? And how they don't even realize how their own words are betraying what they're trying to say. They believe it. I mean, it's really astounding. We know that there is everybody in America at this point, because of whistleblowers, these brave whistleblowers that have come out and told the truth. Everybody in America knows that we have corrupt, widespread problems in this bureaucracy. Now, and as a matter of fact, she also said that Republicans are trying to hold back money on it, and most people are not aware of this. I know you guys probably are, but since 2001, the budget for the VA has tripled. It is now the second largest bureaucracy in the federal government, so money's certainly not the problem. So, yeah, we need to make a big deal out of the corruption taking place inside the VA because, for heaven's sake, let's not worry, like you said, let's not worry about the veteran that's not actually getting care, the 300,000 now that are estimated to have died while waiting for care. Let's talk more about the bureaucracy of it. So you're exactly right. This is astounding. So,
are you still on tour with the CVA?
I am. We start back up with the 2016 Defend Freedom Tour as early as January. We're going to be hitting the road hard in 2016, working on getting veterans out to vote. We've got 22 million veterans in America, and our statistics tell us that over half of them are not even registered to vote. And we're just trying to encourage these men and women to fight one more day for America. To not be sucked in by the hopelessness that I think so many of them feel that have made them move out of the process. The VA being part of that hopelessness, and we want to let them know that Americans do care about them. That it is not a reflection of America's passion for them. That what they're dealing with and the inability to receive good health care. We're just trying to get out there and encourage them that together we can make a difference, but we've got to lock arms and get together on this. And one thing, not to just rattle on here, but one thing, I live in Florida. And in Florida, the election was won by 73,000 votes in 2012. Can you imagine that? 73,000 votes directed Florida's path on the 2012 presidential election. And we had over 600,000 veterans that stayed home and didn't vote. So, the numbers are there. All we've got to do is get veterans engaged again, and that's the process that I have kind of dedicated my life to right now.
Well, certainly, as I gave you the call to bring you on the show, I appreciate what you're doing as a double Blue Star dad. Both of my sons and my daughter-in-law do use the VA. Here in New Hampshire, it does get fairly good ratings for the clinic that is in Manchester. We do not have a VA hospital here in the state of New Hampshire. So people either have to go there, down to Brockton, Massachusetts, or over to Vermont for longer-term type care. And it is a problem that has existed for decades. But certainly, when I saw the first stories coming out about the VA and just the bureaucracy and the leadership doing what they could to get their bonuses and letting veterans die, it just made my blood boil. It is unfathomable that under two or more administrations that we've gotten this way. And what are you hearing as you go around the country? Do you get the chance to meet with congressional leaders from those states, and what are they actually what are they saying, but then what are they doing?
What I've experienced is almost absolute gridlock. Congressional leaders who are wringing their hands. As you know, we just had the Senate vote blocked to just bring about the simplest form of VA reform, and that's accountability. And it's amazing that the senator who demanded that we would not vote on VA accountability is also the same senator who lied who lied about his service in Vietnam. I mean, what we're seeing here is just incredibly widespread corruption. And what I've seen, like in my own experience, when I get out and talk to veterans, I just wish that you could correlate, that you could march a group of wounded veterans in front of these congressmen and make them sit down and watch their life for a day. You know, I'd love for them to see my friend Mike, who's a double amputee, one of the most tragically injured in the entire war in Afghanistan and Iraq. He has a traumatic brain injury and is a double amputee, as I said. The first time I met Mike, he had duct tape attaching his prosthetic leg to his thigh.
Wow.
Duct tape. This same young man waited 10 months for a root canal. If anybody has ever needed a root canal, can you even fathom that? And it makes me want to cry.
I've had several. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, not to even mention the fact that this young man has suffered from a traumatic brain injury and deals with life that is just nearly impossible anyway. Now we let him be in agonizing pain in his mouth for 10 months. And, you know, one thing that I want to point out, too, is when I told you earlier that the budget for the VA has tripled since 2001, do you know what's most appalling about that? Is 78% of the new hires have been middle and upper management positions, not health care givers. So American people, Congress is so out of touch with what Americans are willing to do. And I think they're hiding behind this whole circle, this closed circle up there where they all nod in agreement with each other. And they just completely, constantly disregard the real issues at hand. And that is the fact that veterans are not getting health care. They're just not getting it. And like you said, one of you said, I can't remember which one, I think it was Skip, you talked about, you know, your family members being able to get good health care. There are certainly pockets all over this country where when you get in, your health care is good. The problem is the wait list and the backlogs. And you know, what we've watched at Concerned Veterans for America, as we've been monitoring this, is it's just a constant deception to the people. We say that the wait lists are decreasing, but by decreasing the wait list, what we're doing is putting these cases in appeals. And the appeals cases are going 4 to 6 years without people getting decisions on being able to get health care. It's completely unacceptable, and Congress has got to stop playing political games with the lives of our veterans. They've got to get real in this battle and be honest about what's happening.
Okay, Karen, I understand you have to take off. Where can people reach you, or where can people help? Where should they go?
Go to cv4a.org, concernedveteransforamerica.org. We are leading the charge in reforming the VA. Thank you so much for being willing to stick with us and keep fighting about this subject, and we appreciate your willingness to fight. Thank you so much.
I heard you speak. I appreciate you trooping yourself around the country to get this in front of people. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, Karen Vaughn, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Why are you going to want to listen to GrokTALK? Because when it comes to politics, news, and the culture, we are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservative bloggers, and activists. GrokTALK comes to you live Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you missed us on Saturday, catch us on Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. right here on The Rock, NHCR.com.
GrokTALK.
By the way, to leave the XM Bank unauthorized, all Congress had to do was do nothing. If there is one thing the United States Congress is good at doing, it is doing nothing. And yet the phrase that gets repeated so often, Washington is broken, that phrase is actually not true. Washington is working. It's just not working for the American people. It's working. The cartel is working for the lobbyists and the giant corporations and those with power and influence in the Obama administration.
Welcome back to GrokTALK. Thank you to Karen Vaughn for taking some time to talk to us, and of course, again, Rich Gerard. Election day's coming up Tuesday, Manchester.
Matters. Don't let the Democrats take over the city.
Yeah, you've been warned. You know what happens.
Your wallets are the first to go.
Yes. It's so appropriate on this weekend of Halloween that you use Ted Cruz to talk about a zombie agency coming back to life.
Mm-hmm.
The Ex-Im Bank.
And, you know, and I did a couple of features on that at the time because it looked like it was going to be the Bank of the Living Dead. And they actually managed to kill it. And it's been dead for 3 months, and that's the best they could do. They don't want it to molder too badly in its grave. They're going to exhume it. and zap it with some Frankensteinian sparks and send it walking back to its edifice in Washington.
Yeah, well, you know,
Or
I was
maybe
going to...
lurching back
Was
to
this
its
what you wanted me to
edifice.
play?
It's not a tumor.
I wasn't sure what you were... I didn't think you were giving me, hey, do that thing. Yeah, you know, we had guests on. We talked about this over and over again. All you had to do was nothing. That's it. Nothing. And you couldn't do nothing.
They can't restrain themselves when it means spending other people's money.
And we can blame the Republicans because all the Democrats voted for this, and then a small minority of Republicans once again voted against the majority of Republicans in the U.S. House, decided to resurrect it. You know, how must they feel trucking out to the very small cemetery of dead agencies and digging up the...
Are there any dead ones in it?
Well, there has to be. You know, when you get to the point in the federal government when you can't even decide or figure out and properly enumerate how many agencies there are in the government, which they cannot do, the estimates range from anywhere from 400 to 556 or something stupid like that.
Somebody said 648 this week.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And including the sub-agencies, it was some number. It was way over 600. Might even have been 684.
You know, why don't you just let dead dogs lie?
They're like bunny rabbits. You leave them alone and they just make more.
So this is not...
but they're not cute.
They're not cute.
That's not a euphemism.
Rabbits.
You don't want to apply to government.
Well, you are getting screwed, right? So I don't see how that's not appropriate. I think that really
wabbits,
worked.
huh?
Rascally wabbits. Maybe I should play this.
Yes.
They're back. They're back. Those agencies are back, actually. They never leave. They don't have to go anywhere.
Did they even take the time to take the sign down?
No, they didn't. The bank's building was right there because they all had there was not even a for sale or for lease sign. They had every expectation they'd be back at their jobs within a matter of weeks or months. And sure enough, the Republicans helped.
Well, I'm sure they had a lot of people on the inside telling them, don't worry. Give us a couple months. It'll come out of the media and we'll bring it back.
Now the question is were they getting paid during all this, or are they going to get back pay just like every other government shutdown?
Everybody gets back pay. It's like Christmas bonus. Here's your big check from the taxpayers. I know you didn't do anything for 3 months, but we're going to pay you anyway.
Great. Just great.
Yes. That's
or
just
maybe it's
where we
like
are.
the Clintons. They make deals even when they're not in power.
Yeah, global deals with major governments in exchange for cash. So,
yeah.
Indulgences.
No, that used to graft.
They get indulgences.
Bribery.
Yeah.
The Clinton Mafia.
All right, so XM is alive. What else do we want to hit on? Because we touched on a bunch of stuff early. We got a couple minutes. Kimberly Morin is going to call us, and we're going to talk about her little to-do the other day. Every town for gun control was having this weekly protest thing, and she went down there and interviewed some folks. And she's going to talk to us about that exciting experience.
So Ed Lasky is going to join the conversation.
Ed Lasky will be flashing a little bit later, 8 or 9 minutes from now. But until then, if you have something to fill the time with, and I know you do, bring it up now.
There are a few things. Town Hall has this list of 20 quotes, both by and about Jeb, for why he shouldn't be president, including a fabulous one from 2012 where... He said, I used to be a conservative.
I used to be.
He was talking about the debates and the nominating process.
Everybody's a conservative. There's no used to be.
Well, that depends. But he's the one that walked right past Gnomeville and did not pick up an endorsement. And
didn't grab a little red hat. Well,
No, it didn't do him any good, obviously.
No, well, I mean, he's still in there, and he's got money, so as long as he's got money, I mean, I know everybody's saying he's dead, and his campaign's going to collapse and implode, and he's going to announce that he's stepping back at some point, but I won't believe it till I see it.
Well, they are yesterday.
But here's the thing. The Super PAC has lots of money. They can run ads, but that's kind of like having a virtual candidate, because
Well, he's a virtual conservative. So
yeah, exactly. The fuel that operates the actual campaign, that pays for the consultants, that pays for the plane rides to actually stand in front of people and pretend to be a conservative after you said you weren't one. These are the things that require actual donors, and he has less small donors than most of the other candidates. I think they said he had less small donors than Gilmore.
Ooh, that hurts.
Ouch.
That really hurts.
That burns.
But Friday the report went out that the security and HR folks were going around and letting lots of people go.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe and I put up a couple of quotes from the donor class saying how I'm not going to quote them because I don't have the article up in front of me, but basically it's a case of what an idiot for taking on Rubio after he just handed the media their heads for talking about the missed votes. And there's Jeb just dragging himself up and saying the exact same thing. And then he was surprised when Rubio just shot him down like anti-aircraft flak, taking out a German bomber in World War II.
You could watch the spiral and the smoke from from home. It was a thing of beauty. I find Rubio just a tad too slick, and I don't like his positions on a few things. But my God, does he know how to hand the asses of Democrats and rhinos to themselves?
He did. He's a very good debater, no doubt about it.
The only better debater on the stage, I think, was Cruz. But Rubio had a good night.
The one thing that I listened to as he was going through the litany of all of the things that the CNBC moderators had called out the candidates on, comic book villain, can you handle your finances, moral authority, and all of that stuff. I had just before the debate read something by Glenn Beck at The Blaze, and it seems like Ted Cruz has an audio perfect memory. And when he went from candidate to candidate to candidate all the way up the line, I was saying, gosh, we're seeing this in play, and how effective that was and devastating. It's like what we've complained about for a long time. We want to hear about the substantial issues, all the stuff that they are not talking about. They're playing gotcha stuff. This is no way to run a debate. And everybody on Twitter was going, what the heck was, other words obviously, what the heck was Reince Priebus thinking by handing this to CNBC? There's the big WTF moment of the day, other than the fact that all of the candidates and the audience ganged up on the moderators.
Yeah, which was a beautiful thing to watch. Cruz and Christie especially, and Rubio had a pretty good go at them. And then there's Kasich ambles off stage into the green room and tells everybody what a great job those rhino supporting Democrats had just done for him. But that's even then. Let's look at the people that you saw on and off the stage. They told Reince, apparently, that they were going to have a couple of conservative moderators. Look who was in their other room. They had Santelli make a couple of very brief cameos and ask good questions. He should have been a major player. The other guy in the back room was Larry Kudlow, one of the best and fairly conservative economists out there. Not to be confused with Paul Krugman, who doesn't know his ass from his elbow. Larry Kudlow knows which way is up and is a Reagan-style economist. And he was there, and he was in the back room discussing some of this stuff. He was the almost bald guy.
Krugman just needs a white suit while he's holding his cat, and he can be a Bond villain.
Yeah, probably. But Larry Kudlow is a first-class economist and a decent conservative. They had the people. They could have fulfilled their promise to Reince Priebus to have a balanced panel, and it would have been a far better thing, let me tell you.
Yeah, and NBC has now lost the next debate. Now the question will be, as I've been seeing around, is will another network pick it up, or will the GOP finally decide we don't need the networks? We've already got the audience established. I mean, tens of millions of people are watching this thing. GOP TV, basically just live stream it.
Well, look, pay-per-view. Do you think C-SPAN wouldn't cover it? C-SPAN will cover it.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if you give them a little bit of encouragement. Everybody gets C-SPAN for free.
Yeah.
So they could do GOP could rent C-SPAN for pennies on the dollar probably compared to the other networks, and do, as you say, GOP TV evening on C-SPAN. They could live stream it. They could put it on Netflix or Hulu, pay-per-view. There's so many ways they could they could take advantage of the technology that's available and do a far better job for the audience.
We could live stream it. And we could ask a heck of a lot better questions than those, well, most of the moderators that have already come before.
Is CNBC going to start broadcasting The View? Because I think it's the same people that were moderating.
You remember during the last cycle that one of the conservative groups in the States actually put on a debate, and we had Newt Gingrich and
yes,
and who, I'm trying to think who else came.
It was actually
four
about
members.
6.
Buddy Roemer.
Bunch
of folks.
Yeah, from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum.
20 seconds.
And you know something that worked really, really well.
Yes, it did, and
we got lots of views for putting it on.
We live streamed it. We got good coverage.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and hopefully Kimberly Morin is going to call us. I will give her a little tweak. We'll be right back. This is GrokTALK.
From the CNHT studios in Concord, New Hampshire, just a few blocks from the New Hampshire State House, this is
GrokTALK.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALK. GrokTALk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Welcome to GrokTALK. Everybody's bowing to me. During the break, I was yelling at Skip to get off the damn phone because we were about to come off our hard break. Because we wanted to talk to Kimberly Morin, who's on the line. Good morning, Kimberly. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Fine.
Enjoying our Halloween fun.
Yeah, I'm liking the music. It's cute.
Yeah, thanks. Wait, here, you like this?
It's not a tumor.
There we go. It's not a tumor.
Don't laugh. I took a college, when I first moved up to this area, I was in college, and I had a teacher, and she was saying tuma.
Tuma?
And I had to ask her to spell it. Because I didn't know what she meant.
Yeah, what does that mean? I don't understand. Well, speaking of not understanding, you recently braved a event at, I don't know where the event was. You can tell us Every Town for Gun Control, which, obviously the gun-grabbing, confiscating, registration list, Let's Disarm the Good People group, and you did a little interview and you hung out with the folks. And so tell us about your experience.
Well, it was interesting.
I bet.
They were, excuse me, I have to apologize, I have a cold.
That's okay.
I had seen something on Seacoast Online where they were having a 1-hour vigil, gun control vigil, every Wednesday night for the month of October from 5 to 6 p.m. in front of the Exeter Town Hall. So I figured, that's kind of in my backyard, so why not take a little ride over there? So, and this night was raining. There was a few people there, honestly, mostly elderly. But they were, they had their signs out. And previous weeks, one of the people who sits on some board had a sign that said shoot the NRA.
So that's what actually got me. I saw that sign, and I was like, I have to go talk to these people. So I went, and I got there. I walked up. I was underneath the, the town hall. It has a roof type thing over whatever, like just like
Like an overhang or something?
Yeah, like an overhang. So it was underneath that. And, excuse me. And I said, would anyone like to interview on camera? And so they pointed out this guy. Well, it turns out the guy that I was interviewing is a state rep. He's a New Hampshire state rep named Skip Berrien. He represents Exeter.
Good. And you posted that. And you posted that.
I did. The video's all online.
Absolutely. So let's explore that nuttiness. What did he have to say? Like I really care. Go ahead.
Right? But the thing is, one of the things he said, and I keep forgetting, I wanted to tell some of the other state reps this. He's scared on the floor because he knows some of the reps can carry guns.
Yeah. Well, I bet he is. Good.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he doesn't know the law. He doesn't know the current law. Even though I told him some of the current law, like he didn't know it's a federal offense to knowingly sell a firearm to a prohibited person. He thinks we should make that a state law. So I explained to him that it is a federal law, and you can get up to 10 years in prison for it. He really thinks people are safer where guns aren't allowed. So he wants more gun-free zones.
Yeah, because that's worked out so well so far.
Well, excuse me. When I explained to him that most of the mass shootings are happening in gun-free zones, he said, well, it's not going to stop everyone from committing a mass shooting.
Are you volunteering to be shot?
So I said, when I brought up the church in South Carolina, he's like, people feel safer when they're in gun-free zones. And I'm like, yes, but I said, you might think that, but look at the church in South Carolina. It was a gun-free zone, but somebody walked in with a gun anyway. So how did that make them safer? Law-abiding citizens couldn't have firearms.
This goes back to the liberal mantra, emotions over reason. I feel safe, so I must be safe.
Yeah, no, it's all emotional reasoning. And when he did not want to talk about, I said, well, what about women carrying on campus to protect themselves from rape? He did not even want to talk about it. He was not comfortable talking about that subject. So I pushed him a little on it, and he's like, well, they should have things, sorry guys, they should have things in place on campus that could help prevent that. Basically like a police call box.
Yeah, so they can call after they get raped? Nice.
Yeah, so...
We already have that. It's called cell phones. Everybody has one.
Yeah, so I explained to him about the situation where a girl had concealed carry, wasn't allowed to carry on campus, was raped, and the police weren't anywhere near her to save her.
Well, that's like...
Well, some people will get raped. I'm sure that was his answer.
I didn't go into too much detail on it with him.
Well, I'm sure the longer you were standing with him, the dumber you were beginning to feel because his stupid was sucking all the smarts out of you.
Well, he didn't know who I was.
Right. I was going to say he did talk to you. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, I give him credit for talking about his what he believes. It's just that none of what he believes makes any freaking sense. And none of what he believes will stop gun violence or stop mass shootings. I also went on to tell him, I said, New Hampshire's one of the safest states in the country. Why do you want more gun control here? Oh, because it could still do something. Really?
Does he have a plan for people with knives and bats and chains and sticks and
does he have? You always have to ask these folks. Look, you want a proudly displayed gun-free zone sign by a school. Does it make you feel safe to enter that? Would you put such a sign on your lawn? And they'll never either not answer you or they won't do it.
No, and the thing is, he did admit to certain things. Like he knows that. The majority of gun deaths are due to suicides, and he knows that. And I brought up how Japan has one of the highest suicide rates, yet they don't have firearms. And he said, well, it's that's not going to make the suicide problem go away. It's not due to firearms. So the guy's on the verge of actually understanding the truth, but yet he's a progressive from New York.
Oh, of course.
Just, I'm telling you, there is a nanny state project.
Oh, yeah.
All progressives that come here and they get into the state house, they're from New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. There's got to be some kind of effort to make this happen.
I wouldn't be
Because why are all
surprised.
these people coming here?
Well, they arranged to have all these out-of-state voters in the state to vote. You'd think they wouldn't do it for House seats. Of course they do. I mean, we went back to, and when I started doing this back in like 2008, one of the targets was a rep from Salem, whose name escapes me, who used to be a Democrat from Massachusetts, moved to Salem, crossed the border, changed his registration to Republican, and then ran as one and got elected because he was a Republican in Salem, and that's how you got elected. He then proceeded to systematically vote like a Democrat. He was good on a couple of issues, he was Kelly Ayotte-esque, I suppose you could say, but it was quite clear that he was a Democrat, and he wasn't the only one. And so for a number of years, there was a lot of effort being made to get them out.
Yeah.
And
it's still happening today.
well, they never give up. They never stop.
No, they never give up because they want to take over. They want to take over New Hampshire like they did in Colorado. And so here I am talking to this guy, right? He doesn't know who I am, of course. And one of the things he said is that he believes only women with skills should be allowed to protect themselves.
Like yourself.
He thinks that only a minority of women actually get firearm safety training.
Well, I bet you fixed his wagon.
I did not even go. I didn't. If you watch the interview, I basically said, "Do you know this?" You know what I mean? He was just saying this. I wasn't debating him so much. I was giving him some truth, and it made him admit some of it. But
well, good for you.
excuse me. But I was really wanting to interview someone and get into the minds of a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
And
you found somebody.
Honestly, I did find somebody.
Winner.
And basically, he basically said, women shouldn't have firearms. They shouldn't protect themselves. They should wait for the cops to arrive.
Ah.
What was it that I just saw a little bit ago in New Orleans when you call the police? If it's not New Orleans, it's somewhere else. You have to wait an average of 1 hour.
Wow.
You can get a pizza faster.
Exactly. There's actually, I looked into that before about the whole 911 thing because I did research on women who had firearms on 911 calls and women who didn't. And, of course, the women who had firearms were all survivors. They were not victims.
The police come a lot faster, too, when you tell them you have a firearm.
That's true. That's something people...
I'm holding a guy at gunpoint. Police are here.
Well, my whole thing with that is, do you want to wait? Do you want the police to come and draw a chalk line, or do you want the police to come and take your report?
Right. Exactly.
So
that's why I carry.
Exactly. They want women, every town in Berrien want women to wait minutes for help when seconds matter. And again, every town is another Michael Bloomberg organization, and this guy has armed security for his family.
Mm-hmm.
But we the people, we little peons who are multi-billionaires, he wants us to wait for the cops.
Mm-hmm. Who are busy.
So in other words, the only armed security you'll be able to get is if you're rich enough to pay for it.
Yep, exactly. In their world, it's everything went the way they said. But these guys, he also said that they want registration and all guns to be registered, and he believes there could be buybacks, quote unquote, like in Australia. I had to inform him that Australia was not buybacks, confiscation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was seizure. Here, we're seizing all your firearms. Here's a pittance. Here's an indulgence.
All the more reason to buy over time at random locations and stash them away and don't register any of them.
Here, we're going to take your guns and we're going to give you a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
So
it'll be a cold day in hell before I register my firearms.
Right.
No, not happening.
No kidding.
We already know. I have a nice chart that Jews for the Preservation of Firearms created. And it shows, historically, including as recent as the 90s, I believe, all gun control laws that were put in place that ended up with communist and dictatorial regimes taking over or committing genocide on a specific group of people.
Yep.
I'm all set. I'm one of those people that looks at history and learns from it, so I won't repeat it. Bad history.
Oh, yeah, good for you. All right, so we're going to... Go ahead.
Wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
This guy, I know, because this guy sponsored a bill in the legislature that would prohibit public employers from using criminal history employment decisions. So you can't protect yourself, but you can hire rapists and violent criminals.
So background checks for guns, but no background checks for anything else?
Yep.
Okay. Good to know. Did you put the bill number in your article?
It's there's a link to it, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Well, you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, and enjoy your Halloween.
Thanks, guys. Happy Halloween.
All right, thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye. All right, Kimberly Morin, out there with the people, the crazy people, that is, and talking to those gun control freaks. We got about 12 minutes left.
We're going to take a break?
Yeah, I guess we will. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Just look for Granite Grok, GraniteGrok.
Hey, you should be a cheerleader.
GraniteGrok.com. Hey!
It's not a tumor.
All right. Facebook and Twitter, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeart, YouTube and Ustream. Don't forget to go to cnht.org, check out what they do. Thank them very much for allowing us to use the space and make a donation to support them. And you can always go to granitegrok.com and support us, because like we like to say, this is just a hobby, and hobbies get expensive, especially this hobby. And
if you look through our aging cameras at our fairly shiny board that Steve is operating there, and a couple of much older pieces surrounding it, we're held together with string chewing gum and
duct tape
and baling wire and Skip's pockets.
But it's some of the finest string, bubblegum, duct tape, paper clips, and baling wire that you can find.
It absolutely is, and
on a budget of zero.
And Skip and Steve coax it into life every week. And we get the programs out, we get the on-sites done, and sometimes I go on-site armed with nothing more than a tiny bag and some smart devices, but it doesn't give you the same video quality.
Yes, and here's where I also get the chance to say thank you to the most esteemed wife for being patient and letting me set all this electronic stuff up so we can bring you this every single Saturday morning, as well as the different events that we go to on a fairly regular basis.
Yep. So, closing thoughts, remarks. You got about 10 minutes. What do you think?
Oh, I think this whole week's been a WTF moment. It really has.
It's been littered with more than a few. Yeah.
A little article on American Thinker's blog saying that Jeb Bush needs an intervention, but they make the exact point I did a few minutes ago, that the COO has quit because, guess what? When the salary cuts hit, she couldn't afford to work for him anymore because she's an expensive executive. But that's not the point they're really making is exactly what I said. He's got $100 million in a super PAC fund, which can buy all the ads you want, but it can't pay for campaign staff and travel.
Mm-hmm.
So
no coordination.
He's either going to become a virtual candidate or a non-candidate, and it's going to happen pretty damn quickly.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more WTF, and it's MSNBC's Melissa Harris Perry, the person who...
She's a walking WTF. The minute she opens her mouth.
Yes, she is the person who basically said that all your children belong to us, that for too long we have felt that children are a private matter, they should be a collective matter. Well, what's been driving the blogosphere in no small amount is her rant that hard work is a racist phrase. And she's getting all kinds of pushback from that, especially if you go to Instapundit.com. He's posted something from Mike Rowe, he of the dirtiest jobs kind of deal. You know, I would say the promoter of blue-collar type work, showing all of the nasty jobs that some people are willing to do, what Americans will do, to basically keep civilization going, that people like Melissa Harris Perry don't even know exist and would be absolutely outraged and get that ooh moment if she even had to realize that such things had to be done to keep the inner tubes of Western civilization here in America actually functioning. It's like all the people who come to suck out your septic tank every couple of years. It's a nasty job. It's full of nasty stuff, but it's got to be done. And some people do it with a smile because, well, they get compensated.
They get paid for it.
Yeah,
and you know, so she's calling the term hard work racist.
Yes,
I would turn that on its head and say, if you're implying that black people don't do hard work, you're the one that's being racist.
Well, let's put it this way, folks. Almost nothing I can think of hasn't been called racist, misogynist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic. You name it, there's a term for it that the liberals don't like. It's just political correctness, Marxist culturalism running amok in our society, and we are all the poorer for it.
Hey, did you like my post? Kind of a throwaway, but I liked the line so much I had to put it up. What if Christian bakers worked out of the back of Muslim truck drivers?
Yeah, I thought that was great. Not only would they be able to practice their trade without serving homosexuals, they'd even get compensated if somebody inappropriately fired them or shut them down.
Check for $240,000 or $1,000 or whatever it was.
It was that was for the Muslim truckers up in Minneapolis who refused to transport alcohol.
Right.
You know, and I'm looking at this going, what's the difference between that and the gay bakers who just didn't want to go ahead and bake a cake for gay weddings? But let me ask you this. Fired. But what if those Muslim truckers who had the gay bakers in the back of the box truck wanted to use the Christian bakers wanted to make a cake that had alcohol in it?
They couldn't do that.
No rum-flavored, holiday cakes.
Well, it bakes out the alcohol when you cook it, so maybe there's a a thing.
Yeah,
an indulgence.
Another indulgence. Oh, so, boy.
But that's the way you have to think about things around here, ladies and gentlemen. We try to come up with unique and interesting ways to look at the problems of the world. That is part of our mission.
And most of them go, what the heck is going on? And in almost every single one, if we just went to private contracts and kept government out of all of this stuff, we probably wouldn't have such a big deal. Because if one cabbie driving by, a blind guy with a service dog didn't want to stop because Muslims believe that dogs are unclean, well, if you had an Uber economy all over the place, then you just go in your little Uber device, say, I want a ride that'll take my dog, that is carrying on his little backpack a little nip for the missus for when I get home. Now, is that sexist for me to put it that way? The missus?
The missus. Could you call her the hits? I don't know.
I don't know.
You sunk my battleship? Where are we going with this?
Well, just to say how...
It's not a tumor.
No, it's an Uma upon the face of Europe.
It's not a Uma. Somebody email me and remind me to tweak that so it says it's not a Uma. Because I will do it. I will do it. Everybody will like that, too.
Yeah, it's not a cancer. It's an Uma upon the face of Europe.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that there's going to be a Europe left, or at least it's not going to be the same Europe that you grew up in and that we've watched from across the pond.
No,
I put up.
It's about time to pour a lot of concrete into the Channel Tunnel and plug it.
Yeah,
keep the rats out.
Keep the rats out.
Well,
rats do go through it, but that's not the only thing.
And I'm seeing more and more reports, and I put some of them up. There's too many of them, so I'm just aggregating a lot of what I see coming out of Europe. But a lot of the native Europeans are getting scared, like that Austrian story on the shotguns, where they're selling out. People are, when you've got native Germans being kicked out of their apartments so that they can put immigrants in instead and have no place to put the native German, there's something wrong with your culture. And I truly believe...
There's certainly something wrong with your government.
Yeah.
Well,
if I was deprived of my home, I think I would mine it before leaving.
Well, you're Mr. Militant anyway.
If I can't have it, it's going to kill you.
But you look
well,
at
it is yours. You paid for it. I mean,
yeah.
It's
well,
like
this may be because they're government-owned apartments that the people are renting, which of course then makes it a very interesting. Well, you put yourself dependent on the government. Now look what it's done to you.
Thought it'd be great to get a government rent-controlled apartment, huh? See how that's working out for you.
Yeah, well, that lady who was 53-year-old single lady has just found out that she's now homeless. So what does it say when your government values the immigrants more than the citizens? Oh, aren't we finding that out here in the United States?
They've been finding that out in the UK for a long time too. That new immigrants were getting better benefits than the local folks that had any kind of problems. Now, I've not got a great deal of sympathy for people that are long-term unemployed anyway, but nonetheless, giving immigrants higher priority is absolutely sinful, and it just means that you haven't got a country anymore.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that word sinful. We've been using the word indulgences. I'm not Catholic, but certainly John Kasich has been shooting his mouth off, saying, you guys are bad Christians if you won't let me grow government to give out government-sponsored charity, which is to say there is no government charity. There's only taxpayer dollars being funneled into everything else. Charity is a voluntary act of love coming from an individual, not just because some government bureaucracy is...
It's a free market decision.
Right. It's a free market decision, but, there's Kasich saying...
And it's a free market decision without 680 or however many bureaucrats or agencies between you and the donation.
Yeah, now we're back to the indirect to direct labor ratio. How many bureaucrats does it take to feed a family a meal?
Yeah, I mean, when you go home, do you hand your paycheck to the bureaucrat who then does your shopping and cooks your meals and regulates your... it's just stupid.
Well, there was a little bit of a fool for all about 3 years ago, Mike, back in Great Britain, where they actually wanted to say all the paycheck should come to the government, we'll take the taxes out, and then we'll hand it back to each individual as they need it. Boy, that went real far. But the fact that some bureaucrat actually came up with that idea...
They thought of it.
Yeah, and now what's the next thing happening? Negative interest rates are being talked about here in the United States, which means that if you put your money in the bank, the feds are going to take some of it out as a negative interest rate. They figure, well, that's how we'll get people to spend it faster. We'll eliminate your savings.
I think it's how they figure out they'll get the banks to collapse because everybody will pull their money out.
Yeah, or at least to not save anything, and there's going to be a war. There's going to be a war on cash too.
It's more important there's more value in you keeping it in your pocket or in your pillowcase or under your bed or wherever you want to keep it than putting it in a bank. That's what you'll do.
Let's return to
which leaves who with complete control of loans, money. They already have this, but I mean, just if there's no other way to get money except through the federal government, because the banks won't have any money. Nobody will put their money in a freaking bank.
Well, they're also, on both sides of the pond, I'm starting to hear rumblings where they want to eliminate cash altogether, so everybody has to use a card of some type.
Because they want to make every bit of it traceable. Absolutely. Correct. So, let's also think about the original concept of banking. Originally, it did cost you to store your money in a bank. Why? Because you were storing your gold and silver coins in the bank, and the bank was charging you essentially a storage fee.
And security.
And when it only became free to put your money in the bank, or even profitable to put your money in the bank, when the banks were allowed to lend out your money and do fractional reserve banking. In other words, they weren't keeping your money. In this, when it's one-to-one banking, the dude who operates the safe deposit is going to charge you for it.
30 seconds.
When it's fractional reserve banking, they're all making a profit off of your money, and if you're lucky, you get a cut.
Right, which is the whole point of having an interest rate on which you earn for allowing them the privilege of taking some of your property to use it to invest in businesses or people or ideas.
The only cut I want is out of government.
Yeah, well, we have plenty of that. So, all right, that is another show in the can. Take that however way you like. We are done for this week. We will be back next week with more news, more culture, more opinion, less weather, and it will be still called GrokTALK. We'll be back. Take it easy. Enjoy your Halloween.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTALK comes to you live almost every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. You can also listen live at Spreaker.com. If you missed a live show, catch up with the podcast at GraniteGrok.com, Spreaker.com, on Stitcher Radio, at iTunes, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio, and now on The Rock, New Hampshire's Christian radio station, TheRockNHCR.com. GrokTALK is a mobile-ready broadcast, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your PC, laptop, tablet, or smartphone.
GrokTALK.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers and not necessarily those of CNHT, GraniteGrok.com, this station, or anyone else for that matter. In accordance with Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, some of the material in this program is used under the Fair Use provision of federal copyright law. Sound effects were either created by the producers of the program, found free in the public domain, or are covered under Attribution 3.0. Most of the music on this program comes courtesy of Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.